And there are people on the internet that are promoting the idea that previously communist countries have something to them. There's more freedom there. And is there any truth to that? Yeah, there is. There is some truth to that, and there was some truth to that. Unfortunately, since 2020, that truth has been sabotaged. So a lot of people ask, or we have had people ask about some of the cultural experiences we've had during our travels, and although we've had quite a few of them, the ones that stand out the most are kind of curious and interesting. Like I said, we've had several in different countries, but in Georgia we had a really interesting experience with the neighbor there. She would come over and she would speak Georgian the whole time. We invited her into the apartment and she would speak to us. And we would try to use our Google translator on the phone that you can talk to. You into it and it translates. And I don't know why, but for some reason it didn't seem to work that well with either Georgian or Russian language for some reason, because we were also looking at an apartment in Georgia, and the lady also spoke Russian, and she thought, and her translator didn't have Georgian on it, so she spoke Russian, and she was Russian English translator, and that didn't seem to be working very well either. But the lady would come over and speak Georgian. It's really interesting because she would just keep talking. She was just sitting in our apartment, and we would offer her a cup of coffee, and she was so happy to receive this cup of coffee. I wish you would have been there. She was so happy to have these foreigners, which she, I guess, saw us as Westerners, and she confided in us that she liked America, but she didn't like Russia. And this brings to mind the idea that we need to remember that the locals, sometimes, some of the locals anyway, aren't necessarily having the kind of life that we envision that we're having when we're traveling. So we were being kind to her. And the funny thing is that I say that because she came over every day. She started coming over every day, and I could tell she was coming over for that cup of coffee, and she would just pile on the sugar, unbelievable. And I got the feeling that she was sort of indulging, while visiting with these foreigners, and we were happy to do it. But she started coming over every day and speaking Georgian, which was just comical because we mostly did not understand anything she was saying, and we tried to use the translator, and she wasn't understanding us either. But what I gathered was that she was also wanting to invite us to church, which was really, really interesting. So she wanted to invite us to church. Of course, we were just visiting, and but she would come over and really indulge, and we let her have as much coffee and sugar as she wanted. She didn't look particularly unhealthy, which tells me that I don't think she did this in her own home every day. Again, I think she was just, just availing herself of the kindness of these foreigners, and she was kind enough to invite us to church, which I thought was very generous of her. And we gave her hugs and stuff, and then we left. But she was sorry to see us go, but she said she didn't like Georgia, and she liked America and maybe Europe. So let's keep that in mind when we go abroad, and let's think about how we affect the locals sometimes. So Georgia, you might think, well, what did you think about Georgia? Well, Georgia is a place that was actually on my mind, both Georgia and Armenia and that part of the world, and even some other countries that were prior communist countries. And they were on our radar many, many years ago. And but Georgia and that part of the world was on our radar many, many years ago because of how I zero in on places which I cover in our private membership pro-travel group, which is included, in the 2 hours of one-on-one video instruction that we have in the link below the videos, where we share all the tricks and all the strategies and techniques that we personally use in our travels. We share them and show people how to do it. But you also get access to the private membership area where you can get support and ask questions. And so I was using some of my techniques back in the day. I was always thinking about, I had this travel mindset, travel bug it's referred to as getting the travel bug, So when I was a teenager, I always liked the geography class, and I was always really intrigued with other lands and other cultures. So it was on my radar, but I never, I just never just said, okay, let's do it, let's go check it out. And when I saw all this vlogging going on, being that we've been through the 2012 to 2017 bubble from the Retire Abroad media pumping for Cuenca, Ecuador, I said to myself, oh no, there's a bunch of vlogging going on now about the area. We better get over there before the place totally just blows up and becomes, just totally different than what it always was. And so that's what we did. We decided to get a move on it and get over there, and we're very glad we did. So we found quite a few good reasons to be interested years ago in that part of the world. However, since 2020, as you know, things have changed. And there are people on the internet that are promoting the idea that previously communist countries have something to them. There's more freedom there. And is there any truth to that? Yeah, there is. There is some truth to that, and there was some truth to that. Unfortunately, since 2020, that truth has been sabotaged in a lot of these places. There's also a certain amount of conflict already existing still in those places from leftover from the communist days. There are still people there that want the previous systems. So and sometimes they take matters into their own hands, and sometimes it turns into violence. There's also other kinds of violence in some of the other areas within that particular geographical area that has had issues for military and violent conflict going on for many, many decades, and even beyond that. So, some of these places were recently touted. Of course, we always wanted to check them out, and we did do that, and we're happy that we did that, and we're really happy of the experience that we had with the people that we met there. But again, the 2020 situation is global. One area that we didn't go to, that we were very close to, that we didn't actually cross over into places like Russia, would still be interesting. But remember that 2020 is also present in Russia. There are degrees to which, it's somewhat different, but it's still present. So there's little differences here and there, but the 2020 thing is still has its long-reaching arm of the global issue is pretty much everywhere. So it just manifests itself somewhat differently in different areas, which is something to consider, and it's certainly something to have a discussion about. I would love to talk to people that are actually in some of these places to discuss some of these things. All right. Thanks for watching my videos, and have a nice day.